Just do it! Just do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it!
We will defend these police officers.
Listen to police officers' commands, listen to what we tell you, and just stop. The nation needs to realize that when we tell you to do something, do it. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, then the courts will figure it out.
We don't get to take the law, we enforce it. But at the end of the day, each and every member should go home safe. Sometimes the use of force is necessary. You need to comply with the police officer the way the system was meant to be. Comply with the orders of police officers. Resisting arrest is a real and dangerous crime.
Nonpartisan Liberty for All. I'm your host, Dave Bourne, and it is December 29th, 2015, and I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you for tuning in. We're on weeknights, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern. And you can listen on Spreaker, NonPartisanLibertyForall.com live. You can also listen to the archives on Spreaker.com, as well as now we're on SoundCloud and Tumblr and YouTube as well. So you can not live on YouTube, but if you want to listen to the archives on YouTube, all the archives as of about 2 weeks ago are on SoundCloud and Spreaker, so you can listen to those there if you would like. We promote the ideas of true freedom and liberty, meaning being able to do whatever you want as long as you respect the freedom of others and don't directly interfere with their freedom, as well as exposing government for what it is, a mafia based on extortion that rules without consent by threat of force and violence. Like all governments, it's based on power, control, and ruling over others, and achieves this through violence and force. Tonight, we're going to talk all about why people, or not why, but what is your line in the sand? So you can look at any situation and say, okay, this is my line in the sand. It's an expression for people who don't know. Maybe it's an older expression, but I think it's still a up-to-date expression where this is my line in the sand, meaning you cross this, then that's as far as I'm going to let things go. And what a lot of people do is they say, this is my line in the sand, and then they erase that line, draw a new line. You know, hypothetically, this isn't a real thing, actually drawing lines, but, you know, a mental line saying that, okay, well, I'll accept this, but if this is done, then I'm not going to go any further. Like relationships would be a perfect example of saying, okay, well, I'm only going to take this much. If she does this, then I'm out. And then, okay, well, I'm going to give her one more chance. If she does this again, then I'm out. You know, I know somebody, I'm not going to mention their name and embarrass them, but their girlfriend was like a serial cheater. Just kept cheating and, oh, well, she's on drugs, so that's why. So that makes it okay. And kept cheating and kept going back to her. So I don't know if he was drawing a line in the sand saying that if you cheat on me again, I'm going to leave you. I would think so, but it didn't matter. Hey, you can cheat on me. But what that does is once you lay something down, once you say straight up, like, this is it, I'm not going to, if you do this, I'm out. and I'm just using a relationships as an example, but you can do anything. You can tell somebody, hey, if you do this again, I'm not going to be friends with you no more. Or I'm going to punch you in the face. Let's try to stay away from, I guess, violence for now. So say you're friends with somebody and they screw you over, not in a big deal, but they make plans with you all the time and they never show up. They blow you off. And they always got some stupid excuse or whatever. So you get to a point and say, in your mind, not to them, or maybe you say it to them as well. Actually, in this situation, it would work. You'd have to say it to them. So you say it to them, look, I like you. You're a cool person, but every time we're supposed to hang out, you blow me off. So next time you blow me off, I ain't fucking with you no more. We ain't friends no more. I'm not gonna do anything. We're just not, if I see you, I'll say hi or whatever, but we're not gonna be like friends no more. So then the person does it again. Now, if you remain friends with them, they know that they can do it and keep getting away with it because you're not going to do anything about it. So they know. Or if you always eventually cave in, say you don't do it right away, but then they're like, hey, I'm sorry, let's hang out. And then you hang out that one time and then they do it to you again like 3 more times in a row. So it's kind of like a threat that has no teeth. There's nothing to back up your threat. And I'm not saying it has to be a threat associated with violence, just any type of thing that, hey, I'm going to stand up for myself type of thing. I'm not going to get screwed over no more. This is where I draw my line once you cross my line. But again, what too many people do is they keep backing up their line. And by the time, this is a saying, I think, by the time they look back, they see how far away they're from the original line, and then they just, say fuck it and just keep, it doesn't matter at that point. So tonight we're going to talk all about what people's lines are with the government and if they've even thought of it, and if they have thought of it, how far are you going to let the government go? Where is that line in the sand that says, okay, well, if the government does this to me, I have to do something? And it's not necessarily violence or anything like that. Not to even say it's not. It depends on the situation. But whatever you're saying that you're going to do, you do at that point. So it could be, okay, once they do this, then I'm leaving the country, for example. I'm not saying that's what I'm doing. I'm just using that as an example, saying that somebody could say, hey, if the government, passes one more law that has to do with whatever, then I'm going to this country, because say that country gives you more freedom when it comes to whatever subject you're talking about. So that could be something. But then you could be one of those people that say, oh, well, it's not that bad. I'll give them one more chance. This other country's worse. Or it could be something else that once they, pass this, if this state passes this, crosses this line, then I'm leaving the state, or I'm leaving the town, or I'm going to protest, or I'm going to protest at the police station, or, you can go into whatever realm you want to go into as far as what you say you're going to do. But then whether you follow through with that is a whole nother thing. So you have really 2 things there. You have drawing that line, but then you also have will you follow through with it. So I'm asking people both, I guess. In the beginning, I was assuming that drawing that line, that you'll react to that line. But I really didn't think about the fact that you may not react to that line. You may draw a new line further back. So that's what we're going to talk all about today. Before I get into that, because I have a lot of stuff to cover, we're going to talk about where this has happened before in the U.S., as well as what's going on. A lot of reasons why you should be doing something. Also, a comparison to East Germany and how much like East Germany the United States is. So we're going to talk all about that. But before we get to that, I have a few police stories that I want to talk about. Not necessarily police stories, although one of them is very specifically police. They all involve police, but they're not all police beating people up, fortunately, or violating their rights. Technically, they all violate their rights, but it's more collectively than specifically. So I think with this one, I really need to read some of the article. I believe this is from the New York Times. No, NBC News. So I had read it, but as I'm reading through it, I'm like, I might want to read this on the air, but maybe I can just summarize. So I think most people know, for one, that New York City is probably the second most or second biggest surveillance city in the world, I believe, just behind London, meaning the amount of cameras they have and that cameras they can use, because it's not just cameras that they have. It's also cameras that businesses have as well that they're able to tap into, and they can just follow somebody by switching camera to camera. And they have this, I think they showed some of it on some video or some documentary, but not the whole thing. But they have this huge command center, and Boston's probably up there, a lot of cities on the East Coast. I don't know about Las Vegas. I would think the Strip might be up there because you have all this technology that casinos have. But that, see, I don't know, because I know that the casinos would probably want some privacy as to who's winning and things like that. So if anything, it would be totally outside. Like, I doubt they'd have access to any of the casinos' indoor cameras unless they had a warrant, or maybe the police were helping them, or I don't know. I really don't know about the setup, but I would think it'd be a little different, although the Strip would be the place that is watched the most because of the tourists and all the casinos and whatnot. And I actually have a clip about New Year's Eve here in Las Vegas. But so I'll go through the article, I'll read through some of it, and then just try to summarize as much as possible, because this is just like fucking ridiculous. So I don't know why anybody would want to go to New York City, period. Never mind go there on New Year's Eve just to say, I was there freezing to death. I think it's going to be like 14 degrees or something. Or somebody said something about 14 degrees. They might have been just saying, like, you know, usually it's really cold and using that as an example, not actually saying that the forecast is that cold, because it's been, I think, warm in the East Coast the last week or two, and it's been a little cold here. So if a warm front comes in here, then usually the cold front will move throughout the country over to the East Coast eventually. But so first of all, they're not aware of any threats at this time that they deem credible. Maybe there's some incredible. It's not incredible. It's uncredible, but that just sounded funny. So, of course, they use Paris and San Bernardino have stoked fears that an ISIS supporter could try to attack the nation's biggest New York celebration. What the fuck, does Paris have to do with anything, man? Paris is halfway across the world. So using that, they'll use whatever they can. It's just, I think the fact that they use Paris to justify ramping up any type of law enforcement is ridiculous. I don't think there's a correlation there, or that you can, they'll use it. It might as well have been fucking Africa. They tried to pull that shit too. Something that happened at a mall in like the Congo. Oh, so we got to worry about the malls. And who was it that said that? It was some politician who mentioned the malls. And really, there has been nobody killed at. There was one guy who went in and like targeted somebody and killed someone at a mall, and then there was some other idiot who went, and he actually looked like he went to kill himself at the mall, and he shot his gun in the air, and he didn't kill anybody. So there's really been nothing for the most part at malls. Anyway, I don't want to be giving people any ideas, but they're confident that'll be the safest place to be, blah, blah, blah. The police commissioner said investigators have been monitoring intelligence channels for anything that would suggest Times Square could be a target. This is the same shit you get every year. I bet you if I went back and read an article on the past 5 or 6 years, I'd get like the same article. It's probably they take the same article and just have to change like the year and a couple other things. But because of the attacks in San Bernardino, again, it was a supporter. So because, and it's not even related, that was a work-related thing. That's like saying, well, there was a school shooting, so there might be a shooting on New Year's Eve. Or there was a gang shooting, so there might be one on New Year's Eve. And I'm sure there'll be shootings on that day, just not, at the places that have New Year's celebrations. Anyway, they said they spent months on preparations. I'm sure they've done a bunch of drills. Crowds enter okay, so this is what I wanted to actually read, because it says what they do, and maybe that's where I got the 14 thing, because it's 14 points. So this is weird. I don't know what this means. So I had 14 in my head, like 14 degrees. But it says that water said as crowds enter a frozen zone at 14 points, ununiformed officers will inspect bodies and bags. How much will they inspect bodies? With magnometers and hand wands. And I think magnometers have something to do with the shit that's in bombs. Certain things that's in with bombs. So does that mean they lose points for everything? Like, oh shit, hey, you got this stuff on you, you lose 1 point. If you get down to 5 points, then we have to kick you out. They'll inspect bodies and bags with the magnetometers? Whatever. Counterterrorism officers with chemical and radiation detectors will be standing by. I thought that's what that was, so I guess that's something else. And a long gun team will be stationed 50 yards away in case anyone tries to breach the entry point. So if you try to run through the entry point, you're going to get shot with probably a shotgun from 50 yards away, like the artillery, like shotguns, or, a sniper or something, probably like a 50 caliber, bullet or something. Basically, it's probably going to be something that kills you. And after getting through that screening, so you're like, okay, I got through all this. Who knows what you got on your jacket that you brushed up against during the day that might go off and you don't even know what it is, like glitter or some shit or whatever you might have on your jacket that you happen to brush up against somebody who had something that isn't dangerous but will go off. So after getting that screening, people will be rescreened when they get to one of 65 massive spectator pens. So I don't know the setup here, but are they like, so I guess you're in like little pens, not actual pens that write, but like I think of a pen like where pigs are in. So you go inside your little pen. So there's 65 huge pens. So when you go into one of your pens, you will get another screening. It doesn't say with what, maybe the same stuff, but you'll see canine cops, heavy weapons teams, which probably means like automatic rifles like M16s and things like that, and emergency service officers capable of responding within seconds. Wow, really? Within seconds. The force will also include 1,200 probationary police officers working their first New Year's Eve in uniform and plainclothes police who will work the crowds looking for anything suspicious. Nearly 1,000 cameras will be transmitting images throughout the night. Asked whether all the attention on Times Square would leave lower profile targets vulnerable, Bratton said police working overtime would be covering the rest of the city, but the ability to protect everything all the time is not possible anywhere. Bill de Blasio, until they get robots, said New York is better prepared to handle an attack than any city in the country. The eyes of the world will be on us, he said. We're ready. Okay, then. So, first of all, anybody who goes to this fucking thing is an idiot, and you're contributing to the police state, in my opinion, because that's where, and I don't know what this would do, because they might want you to not go. So, because I would say I would never go to anything like that. And I'm sure it generates millions for the city. So the politicians would want you to go. The police probably wouldn't give a fuck, but they would get shit from the politicians if nobody went. So for everybody that goes to this ridiculous event that knows they're going to have to go through all this shit is a fucking idiot. For what? So you're going to knowingly go through all this stuff. Is it that great just to be freezing your fucking ass off to watch some stupid apple drop? Really? Is that... I don't know. I mean, you could see it on TV. So it's just getting ridiculous with this fucking security, and to say that we don't live in a security state or a police state or anything like that, because this is trickling down into everywhere you go. Now, it's not as extreme yet as it is in some for an event like this, but every type of event has similar or some major level of security now. And to me, I don't want to go to any event because I don't want to go anywhere where I have to be searched to go through somewhere, that someone has to actually search my person. Bags, it's one thing, even though still, it's like, it's none of your fucking business what's in my bag. But it's not as bad, bags, as actually searching your person. But it's still pretty fucked up to me. So I would look at that as someplace I would not go to, that I would boycott the security state any chance I could. Now, on something like this, I don't know what would be the negative. Like, if nobody showed up, Well, you have TV stations down there. You have, again, all the revenue that they probably generate, all the businesses and all of that. So it would make a difference. But because I'm comparing it to like a club that searches people, that if nobody went to that club, and then they'd be screwed. So it would be easier to get something like a club to change their security policies than a city, but they're really putting security in everywhere, and it's really a surveillance and police state, and we'll talk about that later, because that has a lot to do with what I'm talking about tonight. But I just don't know why people would want to go there. I know I read about the Super Bowl and the security there and how crazy that was, and they got snipers and this and that, and why would I want to go to the fucking Super Bowl? I wouldn't even go to UNLV games no more if they started searching people. They'll search your bags, but that's more like they want to see if you're getting in sodas and candy and shit like that, so you won't buy stuff there. So besides that, it's not a big deal. But when it comes to, patting people down and trying to look for weapons and do you have a bomb? I mean, how far does that go? Are you gonna, anybody could have a little, as things get smaller and smaller, what do you go to that every place you go has some kind of bomb security at the door to make sure that you don't blow something up? Is that, which never happens anyway? It's you take one or two things, or you take the odds of something and it being so small, and at least I guess they're honest about it. But, I mean, no matter what, it's better than being honest, because people know on their way there, and people are going to find out about it anyway because it would be reported. So I don't think there's any benefit to keeping it secret. I'm sure there's secret shit that's going on. They have plainclothes people. They have all these cameras, like that type of stuff. But as far as the security procedures, there's not a benefit to them not telling people, because they're going to find out anyway, and they're going to tell the media, and it's going to get out there at some point anyway. So, but I wonder what the security was if I read an article from 1999. Well, you had the 2000 thing, so they might have been, say, 98, because they might have been like, oh, because of the turning to the new millennium, there might be some terrorists out there. I mean, just the security over freedom is insane to me. So there was another article about Providence, and that they're feeling Ferguson aftershocks, meaning that they're worried about being on YouTube. When I first saw like the title, I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? But I thought it was going to talk about that they're worried about people attacking them, because this whole shit that the police are in more danger. 14%, the amount of cops who were shot, they want to use the number, like more cops died, in car accidents than before. But if you want to use the actual percent that got killed by gunfire, that people shot at them, it's actually 14% less than last year. So they can't use that bullshit. Well, the cops are people that are at war with the cops. Really? So people at war with the cops, but less cops got killed this year than last year. That's interesting. Guess they just missed a lot, I guess. I don't know. the main thing would be they're not at war with the cops. That's the shit you want to make up. They just fucking hate you because you treat people like shit and kill them. So they don't like you. It doesn't mean they're not, most people aren't like the police where they're going to take that and do something about it and go and attack a police officer or something. They're just going to come out and speak out about them and write articles about them and tell them how they suck. And so they're worried about, being the next person on YouTube. And in a sense, that's a good thing, because if they're worried about it, and cops have been on YouTube for years. I don't know where they've fucking been, that they just became aware of it with Ferguson or something. But the cops have been on YouTube for years now. You can go back and see videos 5-6 years ago about with cops on YouTube being assholes, yelling at people at checkpoints, at all these things. But it's good in the sense that if more of them are aware when they're being filmed and they're thinking about that, they might act a little differently. They might be like, oh, well, I don't want to come off like an asshole on YouTube and be the next YouTube asshole. So I'll act a little more nicer here so I don't look like a dick. Some people just don't care. They'll be a dick anyway. And speaking of that, I have a video that was put on YouTube that I want to play. This is actually from the Young Turks, and they don't play the whole video, but from what I understand, the whole video is consistent with what you hear, meaning that it wasn't, the guy changed his attitude, like he was all yelling at them and then he started being nice or something like that. And part of their premise is, of course, this is about how, this is what I don't like. This is how black people are treated by cops. And yes, some black people are treated by cops this way. Some of it is because what I think, and I spoke about this before, I think you have cops that look at all black people are criminals. So they stereotype black people. Not that they necessarily hate them, but they discriminate and they say, oh, all black people are criminals. So if especially younger black people, and when I say younger, like, 18 to 35 or something like that, like all black people 18 to 35 are criminals. Like that's what the cops think, a lot of them. So that does factor in, but it doesn't mean that every time a white cop talks to a black person or is an asshole to a black person, that's because they're black, because they're assholes to plenty of every other race there is as well, including gender. They treat women like shit also. So cops like to push their power. So basically anybody who doesn't straight up obey them, it doesn't matter what color you are, they're going to fuck with you. Even if you obey them, sometimes they might fuck with you. It depends. This guy sounds like he's not doing anything, literally just like not doing anything wrong, that they're just fucking with him. So, but to say that, oh, this is how cops treat all black people, I think is a misrepresentation, although this could be about race and they could treat some black people that way because they're black, but this is how cops treat all people. They may happen to treat more black people this way, but this is how I've been treated far worse by cops before. So this is not I know there's an agenda here that is probably backed by the Democratic Party, and a hijacked agenda about the Black Lives Matter thing that turned it totally away from the police. But the problem is the police. The police treat people badly. They kill people. They beat people. They treat them with no respect. there's a lot of things that police do, just in little things like pulling you over and the way they treat you. It's not just about killing people. It goes way beyond that. So cops in general are assholes, but what they tend to do is take the focus away from the fact that the problem is the police. It doesn't matter what color the person is. The police have a problem in how they treat people. They try to treat you like they're your parent, and I mean the negative parents, that they can tell you what to do, that they can treat you like shit, that you must obey, or they can kill you. And that's how they think. They don't just think that, oh, we can just do that to black people. No, they think they can do that to anybody. Now, they, again, I think have a mentality that more black people are criminals. And I think there's a lot of officers who have that in their mind. So they're like, hey, if we want to question this person because he's black, he might have drugs, or, he might have a weapon or something. So I don't look at it as some people do, like it doesn't exist, because it does. But at the same time, the problem is the police. But this is a good example of how police treat people in general and are just assholes. And I guess this was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we're going to go to this clip and we will be right back. And then I'll go to the one about what's going on in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve as well, with all the nice security here. So we'll be right back after this. If you'd like to call in, you can call in at 702-470-7664. That's 702-470-7664. You can also Skype into the show, username NonPartisanLibertyForall. That's username NonPartisanLibertyForall. Send a contact request, your name and what you want to talk about and where you're from, and we'll get you on the air. So we'll be right back after this. NonPartisanLibertyForall.com.
I saw this video. It was tweeted today. It's by a gentleman who you'll see in the video, and it was taken on January 31st in 2014 in St. Paul. The man says he was walking through a skyway in St. Paul. Minneapolis and St. Paul in the winter, they have all these skyways that connect buildings because it's so freaking cold there. His cell phone was then confiscated. I watched this video this morning. It was I saw somebody I was following shared it. I could only watch it for a minute or two. It was so disturbing and so upsetting and so, it's such a good
the problem we have right now.
It so exemplifies the problem that we have, both with policing and identifying someone by color and assuming guilt or that they're up to some sort of no good. Watch it. It's watch it and share it. And I don't. Well, I guess we'll have it in the clip so you can share it that way. So, but it was on Twitter today and it was tweeted by someone who's a responsible tweeter too.
So what's your business with me right now?
I want to find out who you are and what the problem was back
There is no problem.
Legal.
That's the thing.
So talk to me. Let me know.
And let you know.
You can be on your way.
Why do I have to let you know who I am? Who I am isn't
because
the problem.
Because that's what police do when they get called.
Well, I don't have to let you.
People.
Well, I know my rights. First off. Secondly, I don't have to let you know who I am if I haven't broken any laws. First off, that's a public area, and if there's no sign that doesn't say this is a private area, you can't sit here, no one can tell me I can't sit there. If that's the case, then I can't sit here.
The
problem is I'm black. That's the problem. No, it really is, because I didn't do anything wrong. What's going on, brother?
What's going on?
I got to go get my kids. No. Please don't touch me. Please don't touch me.
You're going to go to jail then.
No, wait.
You're going to go to jail.
I'm not doing anything wrong.
Hold on.
Can you please?
I'm not
no, come on, brother.
Hold on. I'm not here to argue. I'm not your brother.
This is assault. Can you please?
I'm not here to argue with you.
Wrong, sir.
Put your hands behind your back.
No, can you please
Put
not
your hands
do
behind
this?
your back.
I didn't do anything wrong.
Put your hands behind your back.
Come on, really? I got to go get my kids.
Put your hands behind your back, otherwise it's going to get ugly.
What do you need from me?
I told you.
Can you,
I want to
have
stop
him
to
let me
you
go?
and identify you so we can
told
settle
her
what
everything.
happened.
I haven't done
I've
anything
told
wrong.
you. I told you what I wanted initially.
And
So we could settle all this.
He said, otherwise, this is going to get ugly. Sorry, I paused for a minute there before I came on that. Put your hands behind your back, otherwise, this is going to get ugly. What the fuck does that mean? It's going to get ugly. And this is some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about later. If someone's just going to arrest you for no fucking reason like they are now, why can't you not defend yourself? Because to me, that's kidnapping. And he's telling them it's going to get ugly. Okay, now think of it just somebody at the mall who told you, hey, you can't sit here and it's a public bench and it doesn't belong to anybody, and you ask, why can't I sit there? And they're telling you, well, that's my bench, or whatever. And I bet you what would happen is either someone's going to walk away or a fight's going to break out. Now, the police won't let you walk away, but if it was the same thing and someone's like got in your way and wouldn't let you walk away, then you probably hit them to defend yourself so you could get away from them. But, of course, if you do that in a situation like this, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to be charged with assaulting an officer and not defending yourself. And then they're going to go, if they don't get you there, they're going to go find you. And maybe they're going to beat the fuck out of you when they arrest you, most likely, and may even shoot you in the process. So why? Because these are police, it's okay to violate your rights. That's my biggest problem. Now, if somebody commits an actual crime where they hurt somebody else or they steal somebody else's property, then that's one thing. This is not a crime. If he was trespassing and the mall security said trespassing, I don't even think it's something that you should be arrested for. Then fine, the police can escort you out of there. And what they should do before they escort you out, but they're a bunch of fucking morons, is they call for backup. So then there's no altercation for the most part, because if you call for backup and there's like 5 or 6 people, either the person is going to go with you because they know that you can easily just grab them and, throw them out, or they'll just leave and you follow them out. So sometimes maybe it's police are too fucking stupid, and I think that's really part of it. You have the attitude, the ego, and then you have that along with the stupidity. And a lot of things I think happen because of this stupidity and this ego of I can't let this person get away, or I can't, even it's for something stupid. Because most of the time, unless it's a crime of, when you're talking about a murderer or a rapist or something like that, I understand. But most of the time, and as I've said, like in Las Vegas, 75% of the arrests are for things like this, the ridiculous stuff. But if they get away, who really gives a fuck? Now, again, if it's a murderer or a rapist or something like that, then I can totally understand taking it to another level. But let me go back to the audio.
You started to.
Right now, I haven't done anything wrong.
Please, no, don't do this. Please,
Put your hands behind your back.
Can somebody help me? That's my kids right there. My kids are right there.
Yeah, put your hands behind your back.
Put your hands behind your back. Don't choke me. I have asthma, sir.
Well, you're
I'm
gonna
not
get
doing
tased.
anything. I'm not doing anything.
You're gonna get tased.
I'm doing. Ow! Get down! Get down! Get down! Get down! I'm not doing anything. Stop, please. Someone help me. Someone please help me. Please help me. Please help me. Someone please help me. I haven't done anything wrong.
And I would say, honestly, if that was the same thing, another situation, if that guy was being attacked and tasered by a couple people in the mall and there was a group of people, Now, these days, I don't know, because a lot of people don't like to help other people or get involved in their business. But if you're with a group of people, you might, or you're concealed carrying, you might go over there and say, well, what's going on here? And try to help the person out. But of course, because it's police, the police are always right. So can't do anything there, can't go up and question it. Plus, the police will try to arrest you as well, most likely. So, Larkin Rose does a great job of how he says it and when should you shoot a cop. And there's another video that he does where he talks about the differences between if a regular person did something and a government worker or a police officer or IRS or whatever government agency did something, and how the reactions would be totally different. But because it's government, you react a certain way. And I understand why, because people have this thing built up in their head, and a lot of it is true, especially when it comes to police, and Larkin Rose went to jail for tax evasion as well, that they will probably kill you. I mean, I've read through so many stories of the not complying and getting shot over it, if not killed. And I always go to that story of 19-year-old Samantha Ramsey, who was I think preschool teacher. And it's crazy. It really is. And I heard somebody talking about Tamir Rice again today. I think it's because the cop just got off and they're talking about, he pulled a gun out of his belt and this and that. Well, I mean, I saw the video when the cops arrived there. Why could they? This is where the stupidity comes in, because he hadn't done anything at that point. Why did they not call for backup, get bulletproof vest, get away from him, get on the fucking horn there, and treat the situation totally differently? It's funny how, you'll see 5 to 10 cops sitting around after they pull one person over. But when you have more serious situations, they'll sit there with 1 or 2 cops instead of waiting. And this was an isolated park at that point, that there was nobody else around. So the way they handle situations is just crazy. I don't know where the training comes from. Most of it, I think, comes from the federal government now, with all the terrorist stuff and all that. And now certain people want to federalize the police, and that's what the Black Lives Matter thing is, and that's why it's been hijacked politically, because it's all about, we got to federalize the police, because then they will be responsible. No, then the federal government will have an even bigger army. Essentially, they're federalized anyway. It's just not official. But the federal government will have an army. How many armies do they fucking need? They shouldn't have any armies. So I'm going to go back to this video and then go into the Las Vegas one.
Can someone please help me? Really? I didn't do anything wrong.
Away from one of the biggest parties on the planet, thousands are expected to flood Las Vegas Boulevard and downtown. Police are stepping up security amid recent terrorist attacks. Action News reporter Masa Saidi is here to explain the changes and what revelers have to say tonight. Masa.
Trisha, no credible threats against the city, but police still making 2 changes. We're told there's going to be more cops in the crowd, and they're asking you to leave bulky items like this at home. If you bring this, they may search it. Now, as the night goes on, we're seeing more people arrive, more New Year's.
For those with big penises, leave those at home.
Eve excitement, but folks still talking to us about safety.
Or big boobs.
It's Vegas. I've been here before alone. People get wild. People get crazy. It's 200,000 people in the street. They're running. The fireworks go off. The alcohol kicks in.
Yeah, and I think it was last year, the year before, you had police that there was a fight that happened where a cop just grabbed somebody, threw him on the ground. I think he had sued because he had injured him so badly. And I don't even know if it was a real fight. I think it might have been friends just fucking around as well.
That man opting to watch New Year's show with his family from a roof rather than to actually be on the Strip this year. He wants to just avoid the crowds, but other people we're talking with are worried about a potential attack today. In fact, the sheriff said there's been a 300% increase in the number of suspicious activities calls lately.
What the fuck? There's been a 300% increase, and I'll get to this later when I talk about our main topic, because this is the whole fucking thing. People are being totally brainwashed now. Everything's suspicious. There's been a 300% increase. Oh, there's no credible threats, but oh my God, this is suspicious and this and that. And you have all these fucking idiots who buy into this shit where the government created fucking ISIS anyway. So, I'll go back to the video.
They want the public to continue doing that, to continue being vigilant. If you see something, say something. Now, while we were on our shoot tonight, we actually spotted a backpack. We thought it was abandoned in a newsstand. We were about to report it, but very quickly we found the owner.
No, a fucking backpack.
We just saw your backpack. We got a little nervous. Cops are saying...
My backpack only has bottled water in it.
Where do you think this shit comes from? It comes from the fucking government media, the stupid ass fucking police, the politicians, all of that shit. This is what they want. They want to scare people. They want people to live in fear and live in a police state and think that, oh my God, we need all these police. We need this. We need that. We need more spending on the military, even though, you know, they spend more than the rest of the fucking planet. It's not that much, but it's pretty close.
I can be on the Strip anytime. I don't need to come when there's 300,000 tourists here.
And, of course, some locals are talking to us about the horrific event that happened here, a crash, a woman deliberately policing, ramming down pedestrians, killing one, injuring dozens. That's one reason, just the general craziness of having large crowds of people. One reason some locals we're talking with say they're going to opt to stay at home instead of coming out and experiencing what is sure to be a fantastic show. Reporting live, Masa Saidi, Channel 13 Action News.
You are listening to Nonpartisan Liberty for All Radio with your host, Dave Bourne. Call in at 702-470-7664 or Skype in, username Nonpartisan Liberty for All.
And we are back. I'm not going to the Strip because of terrorists. There's going to be a whole bunch of them there. They're called the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And I'm sure the fuckers from the Fusion Center and you FBI fuckers from the Fusion Center and you DHS motherfuckers too. So I don't want to go on the Strip with all you terrorists. Not that I would go anyway, even if those terrorists weren't there. But I went to the Strip once in 2003, and it's not, I don't know, maybe if you're from someplace else and you get really drunk or something, I don't know, maybe you'll have fun then, but I didn't want to be there. It sucked. There's way too much. I'm not a big crowd person, so for me, it was not the best place to be on New Year's. And then you have every fucking guy. I was with like 3 girls that were all pretty attractive, and then every fucking guy's hitting on them every second, and it's just, I don't know, disrespectful in that sense as well. One guy, I just remember one of the girls was trying to go to the bathroom, and I didn't know her. I knew one of the girls I was friends with, and I ended up dating, and she was with 2 friends, and the guy like tried to block her from, walking, and was trying to talk to her, but was trying to do it by blocking her, and was just a fucking asshole. So I suggest stay away from the fucking Strip or any other place that is going to have all this bullshit police presence. And all of these terrorist ridiculousness. I can't believe, well, I can, because that's how these morons are, but that people, I don't know if she said calls were up 300% or there were 300 calls about suspicious activity. And I don't even know what suspicious activity is, man. And they're like, that's what we want you to do. We want you to call. And then they get mad if it was like something stupid. But they're taking all this time. Like, oh, I saw somebody load some stuff into their car. And I saw, like, I bet you if I loaded it outside, and I think the last time I did it, no, I think I did do it outside, but I don't think anybody's seen me. If I loaded my guns to take them to the gun club that I'm part of, and shit, that reminds me, I have to renew that. It's $200 a year, and I have to renew my insurance as well, actually. That fucking sucks. Not my insurance, my registration, which another government payment, which I should just say fuck you and not pay it. And I have considered that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they'd even notice, to be honest, if I just stopped and said fuck you, I'm not registering my car. Anyway, there's people that this is how they're training people to be. They're training people to call on their neighbors, and just like I'll talk about later, just like West Germany, 1 in 6 people called on their neighbors to snitch on their neighbors. So it's the United States of East Germany. I mean, if you want, you could call it the United States of Nazi Germany. It's the same cliche, so I thought I'd use something different in East Germany. And East Germany, at least, I guess, wasn't putting a certain group or religious group or whatever in camps, and they weren't doing as much killing. They were doing some killing, though, just like the U.S. government. So I think the killing was probably more in line with the amount of citizens. Of course, the U.S. and their killing overseas and killing people in other countries is pretty high. But if you're looking at the killing of people that live within the United States, it's probably closer to, not probably, I would say it's more in line with East Germany than, Hitler killed 6 million Jews. So, although I don't think all those Jews came from Germany, but I would think that at least 1 million did. So anyway, getting to our main topic for the evening or night. I guess, what time does evening end? Because if you're on the East Coast, it's definitely not evening. It's 11 o'clock. It's nighttime. I always think like evening, like 5 to 8 or something, or 6 to 8. So the evening is about to come to an end. It's 8 o'clock here in Las Vegas. But so as I was saying at the beginning of the show, there's plenty of people. Well, actually, I wasn't saying this at the beginning of the show. I was talking about where you draw the line. So, and going back to that old analogy of drawing a line in the sand and saying, okay, once this line gets crossed, then I'm going to react, and giving examples of that. If my girlfriend cheats on me one more time, I'm going to leave her. If my friend, whatever, doesn't show up when we have plans one more time, then we're not going to be friends anymore. I don't know. Anything that you look at and you make some kind of promise on, or some kind of, not really ultimatum. It is sort of an ultimatum, although most of the time you probably won't tell that person. It might just be something for yourself. But there are plenty of people that instead of drawing a line in the sand, go and hide their head in the sand. And some people, there's a lot of reasons for that. Some people just don't care. So you do have that set of people that don't care, or they want things to be that way. Don't underestimate the amount of people that actually want to live in what they would think is some socialist utopia, which does not exist. But you have a fair amount of people, or fair share of people, that's proper English there, that do support all this stuff, that would say, yeah, we need this and we need that. They've been convinced a lot of the time that it's needed, but they do believe in it. And it's scary. That's more scary than, of course, people that just don't know or don't realize or are just naive and unaware. And you have those people, and it's not always necessarily their fault. But so you have the people that don't care, and then you have people that are too scared or just don't want to risk what they have in their life currently. I always talk about those people that, well, I have my nice little house and my kids and my wife and blah, 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 and I don't want to stand up or do anything to fuck that up. But as things continue to get more into the control, or government continues to control more and more, and you're somebody who does care about having some sort of freedom, what has to happen for you to stand up? I mean, are you just going to go along with whatever the government does, whatever they tell you to do? If it gets to a point where, hey, you know what, police can just walk in your house and at any time they can rape your daughter, your wife, they can do whatever they want. Are you going to just do nothing about that too? Or what are you going to do? So I think everybody has a breaking point, although I think it's more extreme with some than others. See, this is something where I'd like people to call in, but I doubt anybody's going to call in because they never do. But again, the number 702-470-7664, 702-470-7664. If you could text first, I would appreciate it, with your name and what you want to talk about and where you're calling from. And then I don't have to screen the call or anything. And if you'd like to Skype in, just send a contact request. My Skype name is NonPartisanLIbertyForall. I'll accept your contact request, and then just send me a message of your name and where you're calling from and what you want to talk about. So where do you draw the line? And I guess this is a question that everybody that's listening can think in their head. Where do they draw the line? Or maybe they don't at all. Or what has to happen for you to do anything? So if you take the people right now that are doing nothing, they don't talk to people about what's going on. Well, I guess whether they're concerned or not, if they don't voice it, it really doesn't matter. They don't even post articles on Facebook, or they don't speak out in any way. I don't know what you would do, because I kind of don't agree with a lot of that stuff. I think that it doesn't do much. Although posting on Facebook, I think if people see it, I think it's good to get more stuff out there. So I think talking to friends, or any opportunity you have to get something out there, maybe even coming up with some kind of plan. And I mean that, it might sound stupid, like saying some kind of plan, but I mean in a way to bring things up to people without being too pushy, but still bringing certain things up about what's going on. So I think, if you're at the grocery store or here or there, being able to bring some of these things up to people, because I think the biggest thing, and in order for things to really change long term and stay that way being the biggest thing, is, hearts and minds. It's always, people knowing the truth, people understanding what government really is, and really supporting this, whatever you want to call it, movement or true freedom. I think that's the most important thing, because once you have that, it's over for the government. It really is. But of course, a big problem is people getting together, and I would say that I'm like this as well, is that I'm so independent that it's hard to get together with people that are like-minded, because there's not a lot of people that I look at as like-minded. I look at, well, they have this and this in common, but they still want government. They're minarchists. They're whatever. So I'm not necessarily just looking to talk to people that agree with me. I'm looking to talk to, as far as on the radio, to reach anybody and get them to get into anything I'm talking about and start looking into it. And maybe at some point they'll come to the same conclusions. Maybe they won't, but at least they may change their opinion on something or see some of the truths to what government is doing. But this is really the question that I'm asking people is what does the government have to do for you to stand up? So, and these are a bunch of things that they're doing already anyway, like spying on everything you do. That's okay? Say anything about that? That's just, well, they're, doing it to everybody else, so that's okay. Confiscating your guns, because they've done it in California and New York, having police, if the police come to your house to confiscate your guns, are you going to do something then? Are you going to draw a line then? Is that your line? Police coming in your house anytime they want with a warrant or not. And I don't think a warrant really means shit. And I mean that in a sense that a judge will sign off on anything. So this whole, well, I have a warrant, I don't know that means anything to me, to be honest. I got a warrant. Well, based on what? You just said to the judge, hey, sign this fucking warrant for me because we have evidence of whatever, just based on the word of some stupid cops? Because that's pretty much how it goes. So warrants, it's supposed to be a check and balance of the police, but it's not. It doesn't mean anything. They want to put this vehicle-to-vehicle communication in, along with GPS on your car that they can track, as well as tracking the mileage and tax it. Would you comply with that, or say? And depending on what it is, it's non-compliance, it's self-defense, it's whatever. It depends on the specifics. So, like, say vehicle-to-vehicle communication and putting the mileage box and GPS thing, attaching it to track your mileage so you can pay taxes on it, that's more of a compliance thing. Taking away the internet and free speech, prison for victimless crimes, which is going on right now and has been going on forever. CPS being able to do what they want. They pretty much do that now. Military and federalized army called police, basically a national takeover and federal takeover of the police, which pretty much has been done, but it's not official. But is that Is that something that would get you to at least speak out? Forced to go through dangerous radiation machines at airports, which they've changed that now. You can't do a pat down. You got to go through their machines. What I have heard is that it's fine if you travel, once or twice a year, but if you travel all the time and you go through those, that, they could cause cancer. But the administration and the politicians don't seem to give a fuck about cancer. They're more concerned with guns, which kill, 10%? Something like that. If that, I'd have to do the math. But, 500,000, not 500,000. 500,000 people die from cancer every year. Maybe around 18 or 20, between 20 and 15, depending on the year. But I think the most latest statistic I had was 18 compared to 500,000. So, government-controlled media, well, we already have that. Attack on government whistleblowers and media exposing the government. Oh, we already have that. That's why media doesn't expose the government, because they're partially afraid to. And the other thing is they're owned by, 5 companies. Then you have the legal system, and we've talked all about the legal system before, but we'll talk about it briefly and see if this is something that people would draw a line on or not. Meaning, do you believe in having an actual justice system and not having a justice system? Is that something where you draw a line in the sand on and say, we don't have a justice system, now I have to do something? And I'm not saying specifically what you do. It could be protesting, it could be posting articles, it could be FIJA with when it comes to the legal system, the fully informed jury notification, or what does FIJA stand for? Fully Informed Jury Association, where you hand out about jury nullification, which means you can vote not guilty based on your belief in the law. So if you think all drugs should be legal and a person is charged with drug possession, you would vote not guilty because you don't believe in the law, even though they're guilty based on the law, but you don't believe in the law. Of course, they try to keep that hidden in every state except New Hampshire. So in the legal system, I don't believe it has anything to do with justice. And this is from my own experience in a few states, along with a lot of other people's experiences, unfortunately, and just the experiences of the rules and laws of the system, and not the experience but the rules and laws of the system. And I was going to say the experience of others that has been brought out in independent media. So, first of all, judges violate their oath, no matter how you want to put it. Now, that might be okay with you, that you don't mind that judges violate their oath. You might not know anything about the legal system because maybe you never have been in any trouble. And you're probably lucky if you haven't, but that's a positive thing. It doesn't mean anything like you're not a person that stands up for themselves just because you've never been in trouble or you're not familiar with the legal system. I think everybody should be familiar with the legal system just in case something happens anyway, or at least know their rights to a certain extent. So if you're not, you should go to places like fija.org, FIJA.org, and Cop Block to get your rights when you're pulled over. FIJA is your rights as a jury member, and of course Cop Block you can get, or the ACLU has a nice little printout that you can put in your car of what your rights are. And that's based on this fucked up system. You even have a few rights, but not many. So, judges, the instructions to jurors, they totally violate the Constitution on that. Or you could say they violate precedent because they don't bring up jury nullification. Jury nullification is not specifically listed in the Constitution, but law, for whatever reason, and this really doesn't make a lot of sense, and maybe somebody can explain why they would do this, but law is based on precedent, really. They just go back and they take old decisions and say, well, according to this case and this case, this is how they ruled, so you should rule in my favor based on these. I mean, that's one of the things that they do a lot, is base things off of precedent. And if you think about it, though, what if all those people were fucking wrong? Or what if it's just one or two cases? And usually it probably is, or one case that they brought up, and they're wrong. They were wrong in that decision. So this is kind of fucked up in a sense, because you have the law, which is totally open into interpretation, and they do that on purpose. And then you have precedent. So technically precedent and the law could disagree with each other. You could have this decision made this way, but if you read the law to you, it could not make sense, and say, well, this seems to be based on the law and not guilty, but precedent, they were found guilty. Then you have the jurors who are basically led by the judge, which again is supposed to be impartial. The judge is supposed to be an impartial referee, and they're not. So you have the judge not being fair. They're, of course, part of government. They work with all of these other branches of government. They work with the prosecution all the time. So they're pretty much on the side of the prosecution, and they're not fair and impartial. They sign off on almost all warrants. And a lot of them are just failed lawyers who couldn't make it and said, hey, I'll run for judge. And there's another thing. It's the National Bar Association. And one of my old co-hosts was explaining to me how corrupt and how fucked up they are as well. But it's the business of law. This whole thing, that's why you look at most politicians are lawyers, and it's like a whole circle of laws. And then they go and make the laws, and then the judge interprets the laws, and then they write them open-ended so they can interpret it any way they want, really. And then their goal is just, of the judges, is getting elected and getting the attention of the media, getting on a big case. I mean, they can write a book or something, being loyal to the government, the people they work with, prosecutors, police, and interpreting laws how they want. And when you're in court, the system's always against you. It's like the casino. The odds are always in their favor. It's the same thing in a courtroom. The odds are always in their favor, and they keep doing more and more. And people agree with that. I heard they were talking about the kid that is 18, and when he was 16, he got a DUI and killed 4 kids, and they said it was some disease, affluenza, because rich person's disease that he didn't know the difference between right and wrong or whatever. But there were people calling in saying, well, the mother should go to jail. They went to, what they were talking about was how they went to like the Bahamas or something, and his probation said he couldn't leave. It was either the state or the country. And they're like, the lawyer should go to jail and the mother should go to jail. I'm like, what the fuck? This is the type of thinking is why things are so fucked up. I'm not saying what he did was wrong, but that whole thing that, you know, it's better 100 innocent men go free than, or 100 guilty men go free than 1 innocent man go to jail. It is better because you need to, the way the system is now, it's the other way around. And people are going to jail for ridiculous laws that they're passing. And you can't have, you're supposed to have due process. You can't have due process. And you don't, even the way the court's set up. That's not fucking due process to me. But when the person who is refereeing the trial or the case is part of the same entity that is prosecuting the case. You know, they're all the judges, the jury, not the jury, but the judges, the prosecutors. It's bullshit. And they'll say like the state of Nevada versus whoever, like the people in the state actually, you know, agree with that. But it's all the same shit. Because people ain't part of the state, so I guess it doesn't matter. They're all part of the same team. They see each other all the time. It's just a big fucking joke is what it is. Why do 99% of the cases plead out? The prosecutors fuck with you. They just care about their record. And they can pretty much do whatever the fuck they want. On all levels of government, they can do whatever they want for the most part and get away with it. So based on that, or based on your interpretation of the judicial system, and it is not what you read in a book or what you learned in American government, I would do more research into it if you actually believe that a justice system exist. There's definitely an injustice system. So based off of all that, is that are you okay with all that? You don't want to speak out about any of that? Or look into some cases and see how people got fucked over? I'm an example of that. I know a lot of examples of that. Just here in Las Vegas, never mind Massachusetts and other places. So is that okay with all of you people that aren't saying anything, that aren't doing anything, that aren't, you know, again, I'm not saying specifically what you have to do. Maybe you have no line in the sand. Maybe it's whatever the government says, whatever the government does. So I'm going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about some actual examples of people that have stood up to the government. And this is a reason why a lot of people don't, because of what happened to some of these people. So I'm going to kind of go through some of the details here. I'm sure most of the people listening are familiar with these stories. Maybe a couple of them from the 90s, they're not, but we'll talk about those and talk more about what has to happen for people to stand up, for people to draw that line in the sand. So we'll be right back after this. NonPartisanLibertyForall.com.
Just have to begin by asking, did you really just say to Laura Ingraham that you think most vaccines in this country should be, quote, voluntary?
Well, I guess being for freedom would be really unusual. I guess I don't understand the point, why that would be controversial.
Senator, maybe you're not aware, but there's a huge problem right now with Disney theme parks having to close down because of mumps. Not enough children being vaccinated against measles, mumps, and rubella because their parents, for whatever reason, have decided that it is voluntary. And I can tell you plenty of the people who I work with are really concerned about their kids getting sick at school.
Here's the thing is that I think vaccines are one of the greatest medical breakthroughs that we had. I'm a big fan and a great fan of the history of the development of the smallpox vaccine, for example. But, you know, for most of our history, they have been voluntary. So I don't think I'm arguing for anything out of the ordinary. We're arguing for what most of our history has had.
I understand that you're all for the choice, but again, if we're left in a situation where, you know, diseases that were once almost wiped out are now coming back because people are deciding not to vaccinate their kids, isn't that a problem?
I think public awareness of how good vaccines are for kids and how they are good for public health is a great idea. You know, we just appointed a Surgeon General. These are some of the things that we should promote as good for our health. But I don't think there's anything extraordinary about resorting to freedom. I'll give you a good example. You know, the hepatitis B vaccine is now given to newborns. We sometimes give 5 and 6 vaccines all at one time. I chose to have mine delayed. I don't want the government telling me that I have to give my newborn hepatitis B vaccine, which is transmitted by sexually transmitted disease and or blood transfusions. Do I think it's a good idea? Yeah, and so I had mine staggered over several months. I've heard of many tragic cases of walking, talking, normal children who wound up with profound mental disorders after vaccines. I'm not arguing vaccines are a bad idea. I think they're a good thing. But I think the parents should have some input. The state doesn't own your children. Parents own the children, and it is an issue of freedom.
Thank you, Senator. I did want you to clarify that. And it is an issue even for shareholders of some of these theme parks and airlines and so forth. But let's move on. Obviously, the big news of the day here is the proposal with you and Barbara Boxer that would allow our companies, which have about $2 trillion worth of cash overseas, to bring it home, a one-time holiday, I think at a 6.5% corporate tax rate. Senator, I'm sure you know that most of the research on this indicates that these actually cost more money over the long term than they save.
Well, that's
incorrect.
Your plan will be different? Let's go back again. Your premise and your question is mistaken, okay? Most of the research doesn't indicate that. In fact, there's a prominent study by Robert Shapiro looking at the holiday in 2005 when we lowered the rate to 5%, and his conclusion was that it brought $300 billion of new capital home, and then it brought in about $30 billion of new tax revenue. The whole purpose of doing this is to bring money home. A
standoff between a man who is wanted by the FBI and a large number of federal agents
surrounding a cabin where a fugitive named Randy Weaver is holed up with his family.
In 1992, a bloody standoff between lawmen and an armed white separatist named Randy Weaver left his wife, 14-year-old son, and a federal agent dead.
The 11-day siege at a place called Ruby Ridge, Idaho. It happened before Waco, and for many, it's an even bigger rallying cry.
I want the truth! You've got the OK Corral. You've got certain moments in the history of American law enforcement where society says, wait a minute, we got to take a look at this in a different way. Ruby Ridge began a paradigm shift.
Inadequate performance.
Ruby Ridge shook the highest ranks of the FBI, and it remains a watchword wherever law enforcement stands off against barricaded suspects today.
This story is used as what not to do. That gives me hope. Maybe we won't make the same mistakes. Maybe we won't rush into things when it's a matter of life or death. I thought they were chasing down a moose or a bear or something. Honestly, I had no clue that there were people with guns in the woods that day.
16-year-old Sarah Weaver was in her family's remote Idaho cabin when their dog ran into the woods barking. Her father, Randy Weaver, a family friend, and her 14-year-old brother Sam followed with their rifles. The next thing she heard was an explosion of gunfire.
Everything in me wanted to run down the hill and try and, protect my brother, because I knew he was down there, and I'd always been his big sister. I'd always been his protector. So there was part of me that just wanted to take off down the driveway and make sure he was okay.
Torn, she stayed with her mother and younger sisters until the friend, Kevin Harris, returned.
He said that Sam was gone, and I think my whole world fell apart at that moment. None of us at that time were thinking that anything worse could happen.
But unbeknownst to Sarah, U.S. Marshals had been staking out her parents, who were vehemently anti-government, for months. Her father had fled charges of selling 2 illegal shotguns, and her mother had indicated they wouldn't surrender without a fight. When the dog uncovered the Marshals' location, an agent shot it, and a gunfight ensued that killed 14-year-old Sam Weaver and a deputy U.S. Marshal named William Deegan.
I can't speak for everybody on my team, but I assumed I was walking into a violent situation and there was likely to be a shootout.
Scores of federal agents quickly descended the next morning. As sharpshooters like Chris Whitcomb took position around the cabin, they were under an unusual order. If any adult male is observed with a weapon, deadly force can and should be employed.
The entire world for someone in my position at that time is this big around. You don't see the larger circumstances. You don't see the larger picture. You just see the world through a scope.
Dad was wanting to go see Sam one more time and just, I guess, do some more grieving, say goodbye, I don't know. And so I took off after him, and he made it around the shed ahead of me.
The people that I saw with assault rifles were moving from tree to building to wood pile through fog. I didn't have the shot. My finger was on the trigger. I was trying to take the shot. I didn't have it.
I just heard a giant boom. I said, Dad, what happened? And he said, I've been shot. And, at this point, my mom had stepped out of the door, and she was screaming, what happened, and get in the house, get in the house. And we all get piled up in front of the door, and I hear what is like a gunshot going off in my ear. And Mom just drops to my side. I knew what had happened to her immediately. I thought it was the end for all of us at that point.
Sarah's mother, Vicky, took a fatal shot to the head as she held the family's 10-month-old baby in her arms. But outside the cabin, no one was aware Vicky was dead, and agents kept trying to negotiate with her.
When they got on the bullhorn and started asking for Mom to come out and have pancakes for breakfast with her kids, and wouldn't you want to do that with your children, sort of thing.
Just to cut in there, because I had actually talked to somebody who knew Randy Weaver, and I seen interviews with him as well, and that was bullshit. They knew she was fucking dead. How could they just shoot her through the head and they didn't even know? That is fucking bullshit. So what she's about to tell was the FBI or the ATF or whoever was there just fucking with them.
It's a cliche to say it added insult to injury, but it did.
As news of the standoff spread, journalists converged on the scene.
2 people have already died. Neither side seems ready to back down.
The FBI says they will not leave until Weaver and his friend Kevin Harris, who lives with him, are in custody.
Everyone here in Naples agrees that Weaver is a white supremacist who just wants to be left alone. For police, he is a fugitive on a federal arms charge, heavily armed and dangerous.
And a small army of right-wing sympathizers also gathered on the road below the cabin to protest.
Baby killer! You're a baby killer! You're a traitor! You're wasting your country!
The Weavers held out for a total of 11 days. After Vicky was shot, they believed they'd be killed if they stepped outside. The standoff ended only after Bo Greitz, a right-wing presidential candidate sympathetic to the Weavers' cause, negotiated a surrender.
Our camera caught a glimpse of the family walking into the staging area. One of the girls is wearing a red jacket at the bottom of your screen.
When I got to the meadow, it was a scene out of a movie. It was inconceivable to me to think that they would need so much and so many people and tanks and helicopters.
All this for one family.
The story was dramatized in a TV movie and folk songs, and it found a ready-made audience.
The Ruby Ridge standoff became a kind of founding myth of the radical right. It not only made the government look bad, it was bad. People, whatever views they have, whatever illegal activities they have, should not be shot down by government snipers when they are not actively threatening the life of somebody.
Later investigations revealed that law enforcement had made a series of errors. Authorities on the ground communicated poorly with agents arriving from afar, which exaggerated the threat Weaver posed, and agents on the scene failed to negotiate or set up a clear line of communication with the family until it was too late. In the end, jurors decided Randy Weaver's most serious crime was failing to appear in court. And then came accusations that the FBI had attempted to cover up its mistakes.
The FBI is feeling the heat.
During Weaver's 1993 trial, another FBI standoff ended in tragedy and accusations of misconduct. 76 members of the Branch Davidian religious sect died in a federal raid on their compound in Waco, Texas.
There are eerie parallels with Waco. In both cases, government miscalculation in the arrest of a fanatic ended in gunfire and death.
The radical right views itself as being in a battle to the death with the federal government. Ruby Ridge, for them, was the opening shot of that war.
Critics complain there was no real investigation and no real punishment after the 1992 incident. It's now clear their voices have been heard.
Amid intense federal scrutiny of the Ruby Ridge scandal, the FBI's number 2 man was demoted, 3 other agents were suspended, and 1 was sent to jail. And the Weaver family won a $3.1 million settlement from the federal government.
Law enforcement typically changes not because someone has a brilliant idea. We change because we're sued or there's public opinion that speaks against.
Nonpartisan Liberty for All. Call in at 702-470-7664 or Skype in. Username Nonpartisan Liberty for All.
And we are back. That was essentially, from what I understand, and I knew somebody, I had talked to somebody actually on air that knew Randy Weaver personally, and he had said that he even went up to Ruby Ridge. But what I wanted to say is the difference is, because that was totally, any video that has Mark Poltok on it, who's from the Southern Poverty Law Center, who essentially has their own agenda. They supply the FBI with training videos and assist in training. They are very dangerous. I've played their training videos before. They put these things into the minds of police. After police are killed, you know, a few police are killed by some fanatics in, 2 or 3 in like 10 years. They put into the mind of police that, oh, you could easily be killed by these people, and they totally distort the actuality or the truth about the situation. So from what I understand, and this is totally from Randy Weaver interviews and from the person that I know that knew him, that was involved in all of that, he was involved in the militia movement, and I got a lot of information about Oklahoma City, the Oklahoma City bombing as well, which I'm not going to talk about that because that doesn't really relate to what we're talking about tonight. But I do believe, based on a lot of information, that was totally false flag, that was not Timothy McVeigh. And you should watch the movie A Noble Lie. You can watch it on YouTube for free. And there were cops that were killed. Well, there was one cop who was first to arrive on scene, a black cop. And I'm only saying that because they said that Timothy McVeigh was part of like racist organizations and stuff like that, that he right away knew something was wrong. He was storing information, and then one night in a cabin, or not cabin, but somewhere where he had to go to get it, and he was found, I don't remember the exact details, but something like he had handcuff marks and was like shot and stabbed, and they ruled it a suicide. So it's funny how all these things are ruled as suicides, like the I can't think of his name right now, but from Kill the Messenger, where he wrote all about the CIA connection to cocaine in the 80s, and he was shot twice in the head, and that was ruled a suicide. So it's crazy how you'll have all this physical evidence that obviously it wasn't a suicide, and the ruled a suicide because the people investigating it either had something to do with it or are working for an agency that had something to do with it. So that video, or the audio from the video, which is what I played, some of that from, again, this is just my information and my interpretations, was that, one, Randy Weaver, they were trying to get him undercover to replace a informant that they had found out about or something. And he was friendly with white supremacist groups. He was not a part of them. And supposedly he was not a white separatist, but he was friends with some of these white separatist groups that lived up where he did. So how much, or what his thoughts were specifically as far as race and things like that, I couldn't tell you, but that was the information that I was given. The other thing was that he was intentionally given the wrong court date, that he did not plan to not show up for court. So actually, let me take a step back. He was charged with selling 2 shotguns, which he claims were legal, that the barrels were not shorter than they should have been, that the whole thing was a setup because he refused to work for the FBI. So because of that, they charged him for selling those 2 shotguns and said they were illegal. So he planned on going to court. He did not intentionally miss court, but he was given the wrong court date, which, from what I understand, was intentional. So that's when the agents showed up at his house, and that's where he had made the decision that he wasn't going to come out, and all of that stuff happened, where his 14-year-old son or 12-year-old son got shot. His dog was killed. His wife was shot in the head while holding the baby. That's true. The baby was killed. His friend Kevin, who was there, was shot as well. And as they said, the only charge was failing to appear in court, which he was planning on doing anyway, but he got the wrong court date. And then he has, the ATF and the FBI showing up at his house. So this was someone who was fed up with the government, was fed up with the system, and said, I'm going to go to basically where nobody is and just live my life there. I don't know if it's technically off the grid, but just to be alone. And that didn't seem to work out for him neither, because of, again, the government trying to get him as an informant. He didn't want to do that, so they essentially set him up for a crime. I don't know what the penalty was, because it was, I think, based on the because they said sawed-off shotgun. So it doesn't matter. You could saw off a barrel, but the barrel has to be a certain length. So it's like if you have a real long barrel, I think what I have is like the minimum a barrel can be. But if your barrel's bigger than mine, you could saw off your barrel to what mine is, I believe. I don't think there's a law that says that you can't saw off your barrel. It's just, it has to be this long. So I believe he did saw off the barrel, but to a point where it was legal to sell it. So that's what this whole thing was about, selling a couple shotguns to a friend. And again, I don't believe there should be any restrictions on guns. And we'll get to a big reason why later in the show. But that's what this was about. And I think it was, 7 or 8 people that end up getting killed over that. Over ridiculousness, really. And the government, fucking with him. And him saying, I'm not. He drew a line, I guess. Did things work out for him? He won $3 million, which I'm sure was split with his daughter. I think he had 2 daughters. He lost his wife, his son, and his other baby. So I'm sure all the money in the world, it doesn't matter. And I think he ended up going to jail for like 3 months or something for the not appearing in court. So in the big scheme of things, he wasn't actually, he didn't spend much time in jail or anything like that. And he did get the money he got, but he lost most of his family in the process, which I'm sure that probably haunts him to this day. So when you look at something like that, that's where I can see how people will give up or just go along with the government. That, I don't know that that's the best example of where to draw your line, but it's definitely something that people can look at and see what happens. Now, again, his case is a little different. He ended up winning money and he didn't even really serve much jail time. It might have been 6 months. It was less than a year. I recall that from before. So, again, would he say it was worth it? I don't know. Probably not. But whose fault was it? I would say it was the fault of the federal government. Why would they have to, they came at them in the way that they did. They could have got communication that this was a court date. They could have sent friends down to talk to him beforehand if they thought something was going to happen. There's so many other ways they could have handled the situation where nobody would have got hurt. And I guess 4 agents got hurt as well or got killed. So I would definitely blame it on the federal government because they're the ones, again, from what I understand, gave him the wrong court date in the first place and tried to set him up in the first place. So I'm not suggesting that somebody do something like this. What I'm doing is just going through examples, extreme examples that most people are familiar with of people standing up to the government. And there's only one of them that I actually think was the right thing to do and ended up with a positive ending. Or I guess a happy ending, if you want to call it that. But not this one, not with all the people that got killed. and not when it could have been avoided in the first place. So in the clip, they started going into Waco, Texas, and the Branch Davidians. So I remember hearing about this as a kid. Ruby Ridge, I don't remember hearing that much about, but I did hear about it, but not like Waco. And Waco, they totally propagandized. First of all, the Branch Davidians were some kind of religious group. And some of this I'm not that familiar with as far as what they believed and all that stuff. I'm more familiar with what had happened and what the ATF claims compared to the witnesses because there were a lot of people that lived from Waco. And I'm sorry, when I'm talking about Ruby Ridge, I think I said ATF, but it was FBI. And I believe in the Branch Davidians in Waco, it was the ATF because it was about guns. Well, I guess this was about guns too, but this was him not showing up to court. So I think it started with marshals and might have went to FBI. But the Branch Davidians were from Southern California. They moved to Waco in 1930. And the founder claimed to be a prophet. I guess they were some form of Christians or something like that. Vernon Howell, who is known to everybody else as David Koresh, thought this was a quote from a video from, I believe, BBC or the History Channel, that he thought he was like King Cyrus freeing the Jews. Now, King Cyrus I actually talked about last week or the week before when I talked about kingdoms empires. And he was the one who came after the first king, and he did actually free the Jews. But I'm still not clear what David Koresh thought of himself, because the way they played it off in the media is he was a lunatic who thought he was Jesus and that Jesus sins all the time, so he's going to sin all the time. And I saw some videos with him. He does come off a little bit nuts, to be honest. Now, again, how much of that is propaganda, I don't know. I've seen some videos that he was actually in where he does come off a little like that. And allegedly he had married many women, some underaged. So I think there were two reasons why they had went after him, first of all. One was the supposedly underage girls. And I think they sent some undercover people in there. There was also a TV movie based on it, and that was total propaganda in how everything, the interactions, and as far as what actually happened, and it was totally swayed towards the ATF and how great they were and how fucked up the people, the Branch Davidians, were. Now, I don't support the religious aspect to it, and of course at the time I kind of thought the same thing. Part of it was because of my view of religion, and when you get to people talking about being prophets and shit like that, and again, I'm not sure exactly. I know he made references to Jesus from what I understand, and that about the sinning, and that's why he had married a lot of these women, and some of them were underage, and that the compound they were at, the ATF claimed that they had illegal weapons, that they had automatic weapons. And again, why there's an ATF, I don't think there should be one. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms are all legal. And this whole thing of what happened there really over weapons, over something being automatic compared to not automatic. And I believe that people should have whatever the police have. You should have access to. I don't mean that the police should share their weapons with you, but the government should not be involved in stopping people or arresting people for having weapons. And I'll get into a better reason as to why. I mean, of course, one is, to me, freedom, that you can possess whatever you want to possess. And I believe that whether you're a felon or whoever, I don't believe in background checks neither. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me when it comes to this, but I have an actually more logic as to why I come to that conclusion. And that's why I ask everybody to be open-minded, because you can disagree with me and that's fine, but at least listen to how I logically come to a conclusion. And you could still disagree with me after that, and that's fine. But to get angry and to totally just cut off the ways of thinking about something, or refusing to think about something or look at something from a different perspective or in a different way, I think is not good for progress. And that, especially when most people have been brought up in a system with government schools and government media, and all of those things are there to validate these ideas, and that the ideas that I talk about are bad or evil or incorrect. I mean, I don't know if there's a correct or incorrect opinion, but even with some of the things that I say that are facts. So we'll talk about that a little later. I remember them labeling them racist, but if you look at the people that were part of the Branch Davidians, there were interviews with the people that had survived. There were plenty of black people that were there. They claimed the ATF trained, I guess, at Fort Hood for a raid. They, of course, got a judge, I guess, to sign a warrant. Probably whatever. They'll just sign it. And, of course, the ATF said they fired first, which really doesn't make any sense if they're going and serving a warrant. I guess David Koresh opened the door and then shut it. And then they said that they had shot first. From what the witnesses, the Branch Davidians, the former, and this is years ago, the ones that survived, and I don't think they were charged with anything because they didn't, they were living at the compound, but they didn't do anything illegal. The women and children were unarmed. They weren't shooting at anybody. And the ATF claims that they were fired upon first, which doesn't seem like the truth. The truth seems like the ATF, and there's some video of it, and if you watch the video of it, came up and started firing at them. And then after they were being fired upon, that some of the people there grabbed guns and fired back, which I would look at as self-defense. I don't think a warrant was ever given, at least not immediately. Now, I think it went on for 51 days. So at some point, obviously, they were saying, we have a warrant and you guys have to leave. They were talking back and forth, and And it got to a point where even if people left, that they would be shot by the ATF. It was handled very badly by the ATF. And I'm still not sure how David Koresh died. I heard that he had killed himself. And I don't know if that's really the truth, that the ATF may have killed him. I don't know. But in the end, at least the people that had established this, being in David Koresh, were killed. I'm not sure who else was killed, but there were plenty of people that survived. But there was a fire that ended up getting set. Of course, same thing. ATF blames it on the Branch Davidians and said they set the fire, which would really make no sense. And there was something that the ATF did to start the fire that they had even talked about, but they still blame it on. They said, no, the Branch Davidians set the fire. And I think at that point is when they had come out. So I really just meant to give a summary, not to go into that much detail, because I don't really know enough about it to go into a whole bunch of detail. It's more of a summary of, okay, this is what happened. So essentially it was you have a stockpile, they called it, of illegal weapons, and we're coming here to, with a warrant to take them away and charge you, or I believe that was their main goal. Now, all the people that had lived there, they tried to charge them, and all of them were found not guilty of conspiracy. Also, the ATF tried to say that the women and children were also shooting at them, and that was not true. They were unarmed as well. So again, Waco is just a weird kind of thing, because you had a religious thing going on there, and that's what always had turned me off from Waco. I never really looked into it too much, even though it was a standoff with the federal government, that I felt the federal government had done a lot of things wrong from what I had heard, and that they violated a lot of people's rights and even killed people that were unarmed and shouldn't have been killed. Really, nobody should have been killed, I think, unless they were shooting at the ATF, although they should have never been in that situation in the first place, neither. So I have mixed thoughts about it, but just because somebody has a certain religion or has some kind of, people would call them a cult, and that's what they did in the media. Oh, they're a cult. And maybe they were the definition of what you call a cult. So is every religion. So are Catholics and Jews and Muslims. They're all cults as far as I'm concerned. But this is just a smaller cult that's not recognized. But that was, I think the real reason was about that, was that he was alleged to have been marrying all these women and having sex with underage women. In the TV movie, they showed him having sex with a mother and a daughter, not at the same time, and doing those things. So, and I'm not sure they were actually underage based on the age of consent in Texas, but I could be wrong about that. So I think it was, they were going after them more because of that than the weapons, although they did use the weapons as a way to go after them. So again, I kind of feel, I have mixed feelings towards them, but no matter where you look at it, I think the ATF, which should not exist, handled the situation wrong, and just because they want to live in a compound under some cult, if that's what you want to call it, that's their right as well. You know, that's how they made it seem in that TV movie, like he brainwashed people into this cult, and the other people like, I need to get out of here, and I don't know what went on there, but if they choose to stay there, that's up to them, unless they're being forced to stay there. If they're not, if it's out of their own free will, then that's up to them. But this was, if you break it down, this was another situation about a group that wanted to kind of just get away and be in their own little world on their compound, away from the government and everything else. And of course, they didn't allow that to happen. Now, whether he had automatic weapons or not, I don't know. And whether they actually really had the right to serve a warrant or not, I don't know. But either way you look at it, I believe that all guns should be legal. So from that standpoint, I believe they had every right to have all those guns. And it looks like that's where they drew their line when they said, you know, you have this compound and we're going to come into it and we're going to search it. And they said, no, you're not. And that's what I'm really getting to here is, where do you draw that line? Now, this is a totally different situation. And like I said, I have a little trouble with some of the specifics, but it's well known. And that's what I'm trying to bring up, some situations that people are familiar with that were big in the news. And the other one I'm going to bring up is more recent and was big in the news as well. So that's kind of what I come to, that they had the right to do, as long as no one was being kept there against their will. I don't have a problem with anything they did. Now, I wouldn't join them, or I wouldn't, want to have anything to do with them. But I think they're a little weird or a lot weird, but that's what I know based on a lot of media propaganda. But then I did go and do some of my own research as well. But most of it had that slant to it. So I guess my final conclusion about them is, yeah, I mean, they had the right to do what they did. And then the ATF said, no, you don't. And they decided that they were going to stand up. And after, I guess, those 51 days, I mean, I know they had turned out the power, and so they made it very difficult for them. But, at that point, that was the end of it. But I think he did actually, for some reason, I think he did actually shoot himself, but I'm not sure. So the last one I want to talk about is, of course, the Bundy Ranch. And the Bundy Ranch, to me, is the only one that I think makes a lot of sense and turned out to have a positive outcome, where you had a standoff, nobody got hurt, and that was the end of it. And I really think that was a situation. Now, the other two, I don't know. I'm just talking about what their line in the sand was. I'm not saying that I would do the same thing that the Branch Davidians or Randy Weaver did. I'm not saying that at all. But at the Bundy Ranch, And I'm surprised what a lot of these people did. So for those who aren't familiar with what happened, just to summarize, Clive and Bundy had been grazing on that land for years. It's supposedly owned by the state of Nevada. By the federal government. I don't know how the federal government can own land in the state of Nevada, and that they owed taxes for grazing on that land. Also, they had to protect the desert turtles, which they ended up going and killing them all, which makes no sense. So he couldn't use the land. So they had rounded up about half his cows, which was a lot of money. I don't know how much money in cows it was, but I thought it was like $500,000 or something close to that it was a lot of money. And he had refused. I don't agree with him on a lot of things because he was taxed by the state as well. And he said he's happy to pay his state tax, which I think he did, but it's the federal government he has a problem with. So he's fine with the state government and the highest official in the land being the sheriff, right? Give all the power to the sheriff to do whatever they want and violate people's rights and all of this stuff. That's okay. So I don't agree with him on a lot of things. But what had happened was they wanted to get the cows back. They refused to leave the ranch or the area. And I don't know how many people came down. I mean, it must have been definitely in the thousands, maybe over 10,000. And people came armed. And there's video of a standoff with the BLM of saying that we want all the cows back and that's it. And they were trying to negotiate. And the Bundy family, one of the brothers said, no, this is what we want. And they gave them back their cows and they left. And that was the end of it. And the thing about that was you had somebody standing up to the government. You had somebody drawing a line and saying, no, that's it. I'm not going to, they had pushed out every other rancher. I think there was 50 something and he was the last one left in that area. The federal government had pushed everybody out of that area. And he said, no, I'm not going to go. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to be somebody here who stands up for my rights and doesn't let them push me out like they pushed everybody else out. And he didn't ask all these people to come up armed, but they did. And they were able to fight off, really. I mean, not actually fight, but what would be the best way to phrase it? Push at least the federal government away. They were able to get them to walk away, and they did. And I thought that was the best scenario. That was something that I looked at as a self-defense scenario, a standing up for yourself scenario, and one that happened to work out where nobody got hurt, which was the best, ultimately the best outcome came out of that, where he got to keep everything. People stood up and nobody got hurt. Because that's that's an important thing to me too, believe it or not, that you don't want people getting hurt. Whether you're standing up just peacefully or standing up in self-defense, it's not, no matter what happens, it's not good for people to get hurt. You don't want people to get hurt. You don't want people to get killed. Well, getting hurt is one thing, but getting killed is another. And I value human life. So something like that, I think, was the perfect outcome I don't think you could have had a more perfect outcome than that. And I think people should use that and feed off of that and stand up for themselves in situations where they need to. Now, this is obviously a different situation. I'm not saying, stand up for every little thing, get a whole bunch of people with a bunch of guns. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that people need to stand up for themselves. People need to stand up to the government. And people need to, I shouldn't keep saying people need. I'm not telling, that's just, I guess, how I phrase it, but I'm not telling people what to do. You can do whatever you want. You can sit there and never think about any of this. You can never draw your line in the sand. You can just go along with whatever the government wants you to do, and that can be your life. And never risk anything. That's totally up to you. But I think everybody, or most people, have a point where, they have their line in the sand. And if you cross that line, they're going to do something. It doesn't mean it's going to be something violent and I don't consider self-defense violence neither, but it doesn't mean it's going to be something that involves a weapon. It could be doing other things. But, whether it's filing things through a court or whatever it might be. But there's a time, I think, for people to stand up. And I wish more people would. So that's the main example I point to when I point to something that I thought actually worked out and that did, I thought, a lot of good. I thought a lot of positive things came from that because it did show, and hopefully it inspired people that you can stand up to the federal government. Of course, for him, it's only the federal government, not the state. The police can do it. The local police, it's okay for them to, do whatever they want. And that's where I have some of the issues with him on that. So other things that are the same things that I don't know, would people stand up to this? I mean, illegal searches. Are you going to just let the police search your house, or are you going to do anything about it? Forced vaccines. One of the clips I played with Rand Paul, the woman was like, really? You wouldn't, force vaccines? And there's a difference between recommending and when you're talking about forcing somebody, tying them down and injecting them with something. Of course, gun confiscation, I think I mentioned that already. Checkpoints and being pulled over. Now, they're getting more and more crazy with checkpoints and breaking the Constitution more and more as far as how they're using them. And that's what they did in East Germany. Checkpoint crazy, checkpoints everywhere because they want to run your license, they want to talk to you, they want to give information, all of these things. Checkpoints aren't about really checking for drinking and driving or checking for immigrants. Those are the two that are technically legal, quote unquote. And then, of course, internet freedom. So I'm essentially going through all these things and saying, think about all of these things that are going on. Like, is there anything out of all this stuff that you would stand up for? And that's where I go into the real checks and balances, because the real checks and balances, there aren't any checks and balances right now, because the government all work for this. It's all the same corporation or all the same group or whatever you want to call it. They all work for government. There's no checks and balances. They all have the same basic goals. Now, this department might fight with this department about who gets what and stuff like that. But as far as expansion and taking over and having more control over what happens and controlling people's lives, that's what government is. There's no checks and balances. And that's why I bring up the weapons thing, because the only checks and balance to me would be if the people had and when I say the people, I say people as a whole, the right to have the same weapons as the police have. Because if you think about it now, you have a military, never mind the police, you have a military that is more powerful than anything. They could take over the government if they want. They could take over a state if they want. Where's the check and balance on that? And really, where's the check and balance on the government? The people were supposed to be the check and balance on the government, meaning that if these people are violating your rights, that's where you stand up. And if they want to stand up with weapons, then you stand up with weapons, and hopefully that's deterrent to stop any actual altercation from happening. The people back off, just like in the Bundy Ranch issue or standoff. And that's why I think that. I honestly do, because I think that weapons, the whole Second Amendment, it is about a militia, and it is about personal ownership, but it's about a militia to fight back against anybody, whether it's some other country or your own government. If your rights are being violated, you have the right to self-defense. And that's a check and balance on the government. Because what other checks and balances do you have? Oh, because Congress and the president and the courts? Because they're all in bed together and appointing each other and working with each other and trying to compromise so they can get their agenda pushed. So that's really the only check and balance that I think would be a real check and balance, is if people had at least what the police had. And if their rights were violated, they could stand up for themselves. Or people forming militias that could challenge the police if needed. And again, hopefully it would be something where nobody got hurt. It's just they'd realize, okay, we're violating your rights. You're right. And that would be the end of it. But right now, I obviously don't think that that would be the case. So the reasons people won't stand up, obviously fear of death, prison, war. Well, I don't know about war, but there's some people that want to go to war with the government, which I think is pretty ridiculous, because then you just get you get the same thing. I mean, where's the change there? There's nothing. So I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about East Germany and how there are a lot of similarities with East Germany and the United States, unfortunately. Oh, and we'll even give you some New Year's Eve security tips. This is just more for fun. So I'm going to play a couple clips, but one of them will be New Year's Eve security tips. And I also want to play Malcolm X about his problem with nonviolence and the speeches about self-defense. So we'll be right back after this. NonPartisanLIbertyForall.com.
I go back to the question of housing and education. Let's pick education. How does one bring about compensatory action in education? By having better schools for young Negro children than for white children, if we are talking about integration?
This is very simple. By providing remedial training in reading and in arithmetic, and by providing the best of teachers to these schools which have deprived children in them.
By now, when you say deprived children, yes, you're not limiting this to Negro children alone.
Of course, but the larger percentage of Negro kids are deprived than whites. And therefore, I think a larger percentage of the most skilled teachers are required in that section.
All right. Now, I grant that. But the question I'm still trying to iron out, and I think Mr. Farmer has for me, is this question as to whether the compensation for discrimination and the lack of equality is to be another kind of discrimination or another kind of inequality. And I think you answer that in the negative when you say that in the schools that you would establish for the previously underprivileged or the underprivileged would include schools for children, not just Negroes, but Puerto Ricans and other underprivileged persons. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, I think you're right there. I would not limit our employment demands to Negroes. I would include Puerto Ricans and other minorities throughout our country, which have been similarly discriminated against, though not for so long a period of time as Negroes.
Puerto Ricans weren't enslaved. Yeah, this is a problem that stems from slavery. And this compensation, yes, so this compensation is coming to people who were enslaved by the white man for 400 years. The Puerto Ricans don't even fit into this picture.
Well, they do fit into it.
No, the problem is the Negro problem. They're not lynching Puerto Ricans.
If a dark-skinned Puerto Rican went down to Mississippi, he probably would be lynched too.
Spanish, he wouldn't be lynched.
No, they don't.
It's the Negro here, and as long as he can speak Spanish or some other language, or if he ties his head up with a turban or something, he can go anywhere in Mississippi or in your home that he desires.
You're not aware of the fact, are you, that African students have been arrested in our demonstrations in the South?
When they
speak French.
When they have been mistaken for the so-called Negro in America, they've been arrested.
What I'm saying is that many Puerto Ricans are mistaken for Negroes. I do not think discrimination stems only from slavery.
Let me turn to Mr. Walker.
You say that Mr. Farmer's idea of compensatory treatment of the Negro has portents of disaster. It does have portents of disaster for the system from which the Negro community is suffering. And over against that, I don't think Malcolm X's analogy of the nations in Africa and Asia that are freeing themselves, you have there on the one hand a black or brown majority, whereas the Negro community in America is a black or brown minority. And I don't think the analogy quite holds water, and this is why we...
But your whole philosophy comes out of India. This nonviolent thing is based upon the 400 million Indians doing passive sit-down on 100,000 whites, and you use that. Well, in this country, you're still a minority, yet you're going to use tactics that was used by a dark minority in another land.
I think this shows how little you know about nonviolence, because Gandhi began his campaign among the Indians in South Africa, who are a minority.
And they're still they're still a minority, and they still have the problem. But Gandhi's fame came from having gotten freedom for the people of India from the English, and he used non-violent methods, which means you have a great big dark elephant-type creature sitting down on a little white mouse. But here in America, you have a little black mouse trying to pull a sit-down, non-violent tactic on a white elephant.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, just for a minute, and then I'll exercise non-violent methods to enforce a break. Just go ahead.
Nonviolence is more effective when you have large numbers of people. That is what we've found out in Birmingham. It's what we've found out all over North Carolina.
What did you gain in Birmingham?
Now, wait a minute. Let me tell you what we've gained in North Carolina.
What did you gain in Birmingham?
Let me tell you what we've gained there. He can answer that. This was his campaign in Birmingham. Ask me about our campaign.
What did you gain in North Carolina?
Let me tell you what we've gained. We've gained jobs. We've gained open employment in Greensboro, North Carolina. One of the officials of the city who is in charge of employment has announced that hereinafter all city employment will be on a merit basis and there'll be no discrimination. A committee has been set up whereby grievances of individuals who feel that they've been discriminated against because of race will be dealt with. We are represented on that committee. In 6 cities in North Carolina, the theaters have desegregated. Places that serve the public in 5 cities have desegregated. And the whole state is becoming an open state. Now, wait a minute.
Is it a gain to go to a theater for a man who hasn't got a job?
It's a gain to get a job. It's a gain to get a job, and it's jobs that we're providing. Now, it's a gain also to go to the theater. It's a gain because it's not the theater so much, it's not the cup of coffee at the lunch counter. It's the dignity that a person achieves. Is it a gain to have a business over on the other side of the tracks to which you can go, but when you walk downtown, you're discriminated against and cannot go there? What I say, Mr. X, is that all places that serve the public, black and white, must serve all members of the public. We are members of the public, whether you want to admit it or not. If we're not members of the public, then what are we?
Why do you have the race problem in this country if we're members of the public?
We're members of the public, and that's why we are trying to wipe out racial discrimination.
You'll never wipe it out with a desegregated theater.
Well, I
we're
may
wiping
not,
it out
guess,
with
but
jobs.
may I, however, ineffectually, over the past 60 seconds, try to have a break now, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies. When you live in a poor neighborhood, you're living in an area where you have to have poor schools. When you have poor schools, you have poor teachers. When you have poor teachers, you get a poor education. And when you get a poor education, you are destined to be a poor man and a poor woman the rest of your life. Poor education, you can only work on a poor-paying job. And that poor-paying job enables you to live again in a poor neighborhood. So it's a very vicious cycle. And usually these bad housing conditions result from the fact, as Mr. Gray has pointed out, of absentee landlords, people who are rich and live downtown and let you and I live up here in the shack. Actually, it's a form of 20th century slavery. And what you and I have to let the man know is we are peaceful people. We are loving people. We love everybody who loves us. But we don't love anybody who doesn't love us. We're nonviolent with people who are nonviolent with us. But we are not nonviolent with anyone who is violent with us. And now that I have the independence of action, it's my intention to work with everybody or against everybody, whatever the case may be, to try and get some kind of immediate solution to the problems that are confronting our people. I still believe the best thing for us to do is go back home to Africa. But while we're getting ready to go back, we've got to eat now, we've got to sleep now, we have to have some clothes now, our children have to go to school, and we need some place to work. So whatever kind of action program can be devised to get us the things that are ours by right, then I'm for that kind of action no matter what the action is. I don't think when a man is being criminally treated, that some criminal has the right to tell that man what tactics to use to get the criminal off his back. When a criminal starts misusing me, I am going to use whatever necessary to get that criminal off my back. And the injustice that has been inflicted upon Negroes in this country by Uncle Sam is criminal. Don't blame a cracker in Georgia for your injustices. The government is responsible for the injustices. The government can bring these injustices to halt.
If you say that you're fed up, if you teach the Negroes who don't even know their own name. Why? Because he took it away from them. Please. 20 million black people don't even know their own language. Why? Because he took it away from them. 20 million black people who don't even know the history of their ancestors. Why? Because he took it away from them. And if you try and tell them how thoroughly and completely they've been robbed, he says you're teaching hate. That's something to think about. Today you are coming out of college. You're coming out of the leading universities. You're trying to go in a good direction, but you don't know which direction to go in. And if somebody tries to take you right to the root of your problem, they say that that man's a hate teacher. If I ask why should the senators in Washington, and then again if we tell you that Negroes are being hung on the tree or being shot down illegally, unjustly, and those Negroes should do something to protect themselves, you say you're advocating violence. The white man is tricking you. He's trapping you. He doesn't call it violence when he lands troops in South Vietnam. Please.
I was born and raised in this community along with my parents who are in their 80s, all of my brothers and sisters. We will always walk proudly in our hometown of Inverness and Point Reyes.
I'm actually third generation on the Point Reyes Peninsula.
Well, the Lunnies are stewards of the land. They're multi-generational ranchers. They're some of the first organic ranchers in West Marin.
All right, 317. Well, this afternoon I'm coming out to speak about the events that we'll have starting on Thursday night. We'll be preparing, the City of Atlanta Police Department is preparing to host the Peace Drop. Peace Drop will be held in the underground space. We're expecting a pretty large crowd. We will increase our police security and enforcement around that particular area. We'll have an increase of officers out there during that time. We hope that everyone that will come out and enjoy themselves, but understand that we want them to come with patience and understanding. As well as we want to make sure that the citizens of Atlanta understand that celebratory gunfire is illegal in the city of Atlanta, and as well as being dangerous. We would hope that they do not get involved in such celebratory gunfire and recognize what goes up must come down.
You are listening to Nonpartisan Liberty for All Radio with your host, Dave Bourne.
I'm glad he mentioned that what goes up must come down, because I really never thought of that what goes up must come down. Yeah, no fucking shit. Anyway, at the end there, I kind of just played a couple different things, but the main thing I wanted to play that I got to was about Malcolm X and self-defense, because I don't believe that self-defense is violence. I don't. We only got about 20 minutes left, so I want to get through this comparison to East Germany. So I listened to a whole big thing on East Germany, and basically after World War II, they separated Germany into East and West. East was controlled by Stalin and the Soviet Union, or was modeled after the Soviet Union. And early in East German history, when Stalin was still running Russia, there was a girl who, just to give people, I guess, a sense of the climate there, who put lipstick on his picture and faced 10 years in jail. She was raped in jail, and she was put through a mock killing. It's like basically how they killed Jews in the showers. She thought that she was going to be killed that way, but then water just came out. It was to fuck with their heads. And she was still troubled by it in the interview. I don't remember the exact date that they put this video together, but it was rather recently. As, of course, I think the Berlin Wall went down in, 89? 3 million people had left before the wall was put up in the 1960s. So they actually had built a wall because people were like, we don't like this shit. We don't want to live in this communist fucked up country, and we're leaving. So 3 million people had left, and East Germany was like, well, we got to do something. So we're going to just, build a wall to keep people in. Some people had looked at East Germany as normal, just like any other country, and thought they were living normal lives. And that's important because that kind of relates to my comparison to the United States. Some people looked, I said that. They used school and media to push socialism and communism. The kids told them that the U.S. and free markets were bad. Communism's good. It was a one-party dictatorship based on the Soviet state. And women, and they didn't give a percentage or anything like that. They just talked to a couple women, and they were saying that they liked it because they liked the support from the government. They liked living in a welfare state. They got free child care. They got full employment for everyone. And, of course, you had the secret police, the Stasi, who had regular people spying on them. So I think it was like something like 1 in 6. They also hired people to spy on them. There was a punk rock group that they talked to, and the lead musician, his best friend, was a Stasi that was there to inform on him. And there were other groups in media as well that were there to spy on people. One of the weird things, though, or surprising things, was it was an atheist state. But I look at that as it was an atheist state because they wanted to replace the God with the state. So they do try to do that in the communist states, get rid of religion and replace religion with the state. That doesn't mean if you're an atheist or don't believe in religion, because that's another way to control people as well, that's a bad thing. I actually don't believe in organized religion for the same reason. But I think in the case of communist countries, they want you to worship the state, so they want to get religion out of it. You needed permission to leave. People served a few years in jail for getting caught trying to escape. And they had a drug program for athletes, and there was this woman athlete. They took the case of one woman athlete who ended up essentially, as she took these steroids, because she took them at a young age, everything else about her was a man, so she ended up getting a sex change and becoming a man, and she feels like she didn't want to be a man, that the government essentially forced her to become one by giving her these pills at that young and not telling her. She trusts her trainer, which actually I think was a member of the government, and I don't even know what the sport was, and had been taking these steroids and other, stuff like that. And essentially, they showed pictures from at first, she just looks a little manly, then all the way to, she's growing facial hair. So, to think of that, it's crazy that she was essentially turned into a man, and she felt like, I guess, she had no other options. I mean, she looked like a man, and she was like, well, I might as well get a sex change because I look like a man every place else. Which was kind of sad because she talked about when she was younger and how she's still that little girl and things like that. And it was kind of sad. So the comparisons to East Germany and the U.S., I mean, take away the drugging part, basically, and I think almost everything else is, the main points are the same. I mean, both spy on the public, the U.S. a lot more so than East Germany, because in East Germany, they did the same thing where they had people that were working for the government, just like you have people that are working for the NSA or the CIA that are actually spying on people. And they had, they didn't have the technology. I'm sure when they got to phones, they probably tapped their phones. But, I mean, look what they're doing here. I mean, at the time, they didn't have all the stuff that we have now, like computers and cell phones and things like that. But I think it's worse in the spy state than East Germany. And remember, East Germany, you had to ask your government permission to leave. And if you got caught leaving, you go to jail. And look, it was based off of the Soviet Union. It was a dictatorship based off of the Soviet Union. So you have the same thing with schools, where schools are used to influence kids, to indoctrinate them, as well as TV is to push propaganda. The steroid thing, I don't know anything about that. I know that a lot of people that play sports take steroids. It's usually not women. And I think any women that end up taking steroids, they're kind of manly already. So I don't think they really care about the ramifications there. But the movies were controlled. I think the movies were probably more controlled in East Germany. But as I had mentioned, since the 50s, the CIA has been involved in TV. And in the 20s, they had an office at the FBI. I believe it was the FBI, to watch over the film industry. So this whole fucking thing that the U.S. is so free, and then looking at you look at in the U.S. whistleblowers and journalists are persecuted by the government. Any journalist that outs anything, there have been journalists and whistleblowers that have gone to jail. You have Edward Snowden hiding in Russia because if he comes back here, he'll be charged with a crime. The U.S. wants to build a wall with Mexico, and I think it's more to keep people in the U.S. than people out, because you're going to start getting to, as things get worse and worse, you might start getting to a point where more and more people want to leave. I think every year in the past 3 years, it's gone up and up, and it's still really low. I think it was like 3,000 something. So in the big scheme of things, it's still a low number, but it is going up. And I think a lot of that depends on where things start to go. And if you can find if I could find a freer place to go, I would go there. I don't know where to go. The whole fucking world is controlled by governments. And the other thing is, it doesn't solve your problem. And this was what I had thought about. They were talking about Acapulco, Mexico, being this great place, or Chile, or some other places. And the one thing is, no matter where you go, it has a government, and that government may have more freedom now, but no matter where you go, it's not going to last. I don't see it lasting because I don't see the objective of government to make sure people are free or any other thing except for taking more control over people's lives. And the only way, and this is why I'm so pro-gun, because, and not just pro-gun, pro-arms, pro-weapons, because you have a military that spends, I think, like 60% of its fucking discretionary spending. I mean, the military is ridiculous. Now, a lot of that might be overseas bases and things like that, things that I don't know that they could really use to hurt anybody in the U.S., if that makes sense. Like, it's not a weapon, it's not a aircraft or a tank, or it's a military base. I mean, I guess they could shoot missiles from it or something. But, and I'm not talking about, again, taking over the government or anything like that. I think that would be stupid, even if the people had the same amount of weapons as the government. The whole thing, if you hadn't got it by now, it's the deterrence. It's they're gonna not do something because they know that there's a chance that they could get hurt. So I don't necessarily think it's needed on a military level, although, again, look how powerful the military is. They could take over the whole fucking world with all their military bases. They could definitely take over the United States. It could be the military that really runs everything. I don't know. The difference is you're going to have a certain amount of people that say, we're not doing this. But if you're in control of all these weapons, what does it matter? But at least at the level of the police, I think that people should be able to have any weapons that the police can have. And that is the check and balance, because when police want to violate your rights, what do they care? Nothing's going to happen to them. They're not going to get in any trouble. Never mind, not getting in any trouble, but they can just do it and get away with it right there without any ramifications of, they can beat somebody up and that person's not going to hit them back, or they're not going to get hurt out of it. Or if they pull a gun on somebody and start shooting at them for no reason, they're not going to get shot at. So there's really no protection. There's no check and balance there. Because to me, the balance would be, like I said, hopefully a standoff that it would be, okay, you're not allowed to do this. You're violating my rights, and I'm going to defend myself. And you would think if a cop actually had intelligence and thought logically, they would realize, okay, or they'd realize in the first place that I'm not going to do any of this stuff because I don't want to get shot. I don't want to violate a person's rights, because if I violate their rights, I could get hurt. As opposed to them being able to get away with everything. And it goes back to the power thing as well, as you're not equal, this whole thing. And I think Larkin Rose said this, and I think I actually directly got this from him. It was not something I thought of. But you cannot be equal with somebody else who has power over you. Now, what I had said was you can't have true freedom when people have power over you. And I think, it's pretty much the same thing. So in order to even things up, even if it's just a threat, and that's the whole thing, it's not even having to use it. It's just having it there, knowing that, okay, if I do this person, has a gun too, or they have this or they have that. So I better be careful in what I do and make sure that I'm going after people that I have a legitimate right to go after. But again, at the same time, I don't think police need extra power to do that. Because I think the majority of people are going to agree that murderers and rapists and all of these types of people, and would report them and would maybe even, try to take them down themselves if they ran into them. So going back to East Germany, I mean, if you look at all of these things and all the things that they have in common, I mean, the U.S. has secret police. They just don't call them that. The NSA, the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, the State Department, the CIA, and even local police. They take secret police to a totally different level with all the agencies that they have that have information on you and are spying on you. And the U.S. as well has people murdered. They can deny it all they want, and I'm not talking about people in other countries, because everybody knows about that, but people here. And there's tons of political prisoners, like Bradley Manning or Chelsea Manning, Ross Ulbricht. Anybody who's in jail for marijuana, as far as I'm concerned, is a political prisoner, or any drug is a political prisoner. And then there's a whole bunch of other things, stupid laws that people are in jail for that I would consider as political prisoners as well. So you have some differences, but the differences are all illusions. That, we're the democracy, which just means majority rules anyway. And we get to vote. Yeah, for president, even if only 100 million people vote, your vote really means a lot. That's why they want to control everything on a federal level, because you have no kind of say. There's no way you can change anything. There's no kind of say you have, unless you're somebody that's just so big that you can, reach 100 million people. So going back to the whole point of the show, where do you draw the line? Or do you draw a line at all? Are you going to let the government do whatever the fuck they want and whatever the fuck they want to do to you? And as I was saying, maybe you will, and maybe you do. And maybe that's something that's not that important to you, that, hey, I'll just, whatever, freedom, who gives a fuck? I'll just, whatever the government wants me to do, that's fine. Or maybe you do have something and it is going on, but you don't even know about it, or you're waiting for it to affect you directly. But it's definitely something you got to think about. Well, again, you don't got to do anything, but I think people should think about, and I think that people should take this very seriously. So that's about all the time we have for tonight. Speaking of checks and balances, I didn't go into a lot of detail on that because we'll be talking all about that tomorrow. Checks and balances, another government illusion, but we'll be going into the detail of the branches of government. And of course, I'll talk more in detail about my idea of what a real check and balance would be that I had mentioned. So be sure to tune in tomorrow, 7 o'clock Pacific. What time Eastern? 10 p.m. Eastern. And for those who aren't able to tune in tomorrow, because we'll be off Thursday, I hope you have a great New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. But I hope you listen in tomorrow. Of course, you can listen into all the archives we ever made at Spreaker.com. You can check us out at NonPartisanLibertyForall.com. And our newer shows are on YouTube.com. I think it's /user/NonPartisanLibertyForall. But just search for Nonpartisan Liberty for All. And you can check us out on SoundCloud as well. Our new archives are there as well. So a lot of places we're at. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.